Hey everyone, famed popular investment manager Cathie Wood is loading up on UiPath stock. Does that mean that you should buy shares too? Well, I usually say when I make these types of videos where I'm highlighting the investment decisions of one or so popular investment managers that investors shouldn't follow the picks of popular investment managers just because they picked them. Cathie Wood, Warren Buffett, and others, they make investment decisions for several reasons. One of them might be that they think their shares are undervalued, but there could be other reasons why they're purchasing stock. One other example of why popular investment managers choose to invest in stocks instead of it being undervalued, they sometimes will purchase stock so that they can have influence or control over the company without necessarily feeling that the shares are undervalued. That's just one example of several that investment managers choose to purchase shares of stock. But let me share with you Cathie Wood's purchases of UiPath stock, the magnitude of those purchases, and then go through analysis to explain why UiPath stock price crashed as hard as it did, and then answer the question if you should buy UiPath stock as well. So let's get started with the purchases. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now. All right, so what I have here is a list of Cathie Wood's purchases across her several portfolios. That includes ARK-K, ARK-Q, and ARK-G and ARK-F, all of which are several funds under the management of Cathie Wood. So you could see here on May 30th, a purchase of 154,000 shares of UiPath stock. You could see again on May 30th, another purchase of 247,000 shares of UiPath stock. Could go lower. Again on May 30th, a 19,900 share purchase of UiPath stock. We could go further, a 69,000 share purchase of UiPath stock again on May 30th. We could go further and we see a 1 million share purchase of UiPath stock. So Cathie Wood is certainly loading up on UiPath stock following the big stock price drop following the company's earnings announcement. So let me show you how far UiPath stock has crashed. So in the last month, UiPath stock is down 42.19%. And it's not surprising that the purchases came after this stock price crash. Cathie Wood seeing this big dip in UiPath stock as a buying opportunity, I have agreed with that. If you watched my video following the UiPath earnings release, I stated that I felt this stock price crash in UiPath is a buying opportunity. So I thought that not because Cathie Wood was buying it, but because I conducted my own analysis and I came to that conclusion. Not because Cathie Wood was buying it. This is just some coincidence that she also happens to be buying this stock that I feel is undervalued. Now, let me share with you the reasons why UiPath stock crashed as hard as it did. So two things in the earnings release that caused UiPath stock price to fall. Number one was that UiPath announced that the CEO, Rob Enslin, resigned as CEO. This was a sudden resignation. This wasn't planned. The CEO was only there for a few months. So anytime there's a sudden resignation like this, it causes alarm among investors. Why did the CEO depart? What's going on? Is there something the company is not telling us? Is there further challenges behind the scenes that we're not hearing about? And so it causes disruption. And of course, when the leader of a company leaves suddenly, it's disruptive, right? The leader had plans in place. The leader was executing, in charge of certain things. And now the sudden departure, what's going to happen to those plans? And we've already heard that they're changing some of those plans. The founder is coming back, taking over as CEO again, Daniel Dines. And this will be effective. It's already effective June 1st. So the resignation was sudden and the departure was sudden. And the CEO and founder is back. That was disruptive. That caused investors concern. The other thing that caused concern and a huge sell-off was the forecast for fiscal year 2025. The company was forecasting non-GAAP operating income, or updated the forecast to $145 million. And just a few months prior, roughly 3 months before that, the company had forecasted non-GAAP operating income of $295 million. So from $295 million of operating income, they downgraded it to $145 million. So slashing it in half, the operating income. This is especially surprising. Not only was it just 3 months ago that they gave the prior forecast, but UiPath generates its revenue mostly on recurring basis. They mostly have their contracts in place. They know what their sales are like. They know the business they're going to have and execute for the year. So what changed so drastically in the last 3 months that caused a halving of their operating income? That was concerning. And the explanation we got from management was that there were some larger contracts that they were expecting for renewal that didn't get renewed at the rate or at the magnitude they were expecting. So those contracts didn't execute the way they were expecting, and that caused a big decrease in the operating income outlook for the rest of the year. Nevertheless, when you cut your profit expectation in half, it's going to cause a big reaction in your stock price. But longer term, UiPath has been on the right path, if I could say, on their operating profit margin, improving it steadily. I don't mind when companies have negative operating profit margin. I've said that repeatedly, if they're on the right track, demonstrating progress. And UiPath has certainly done that. Similar story with this cash flow from operations to sales over the longer term. They turn things around and are moving in the right direction. 24.51%. This is well above zero and heading in the right direction, all of which looks very good. And then finally, especially after the sell-off, the stock is trading at a relatively cheap valuation, a forward PE of 26.97. This is the cheapest you've been able to buy the stock all year. You haven't been able to get this stock at this price in 1 year. Even if I go back a little bit further, if I go back to 3 years, you can see that this is a very low valuation. But going back, the forward PE of over 1,200 of July of 2021 is not very informative to look at because of the large magnitude of that number compared to where the number is today. So I prefer to narrow the time frame to 1 year, and that way you could see that the forward price to earnings ratio in the last year, investors are getting a favorable valuation for this automation and artificial intelligence company. So yes, Cathie Wood is buying this stock. She's loading up on it, as we saw at the beginning of the video, but that's not the reason to buy this stock. In fact, that's no reason to buy this stock. The reason to buy this stock is all of the other factors I shared with you. The increase in operating profit margin over the years, the increase in cash flow from operations, the relatively cheap valuation. Those are the reasons to be interested in UiPath stock, not because Cathie Wood is buying it. The fact that she's buying it should just be a coincidence, something that should be aware of maybe, but not something that should influence a decision one way or the other. I would have said the same thing if it was the other way around. If Cathie Wood was selling it, I wouldn't say, well, it's time to dump this stock because Cathie Wood is selling it. And I would have the same argument in that case too, that you shouldn't listen, that Cathie Wood could be selling the shares for a number of reasons, not just because she feels that they are overvalued. So I feel UiPath stock is a buy because of all of the fundamental aspects of the business, and I would have felt that way regardless of what Cathie Wood was deciding to do with these shares. Before I let you go, let me tell you about the greatest deal on YouTube. With just a click of a button, you can get free financial analysis from a professor with decades of investing experience. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.